sport really is a reflection of the world we live in. And there are a bunch of nefarious characters. There's always something going on. Power, politics, money, corruption, the darker recesses of the games.
When you think of an hacker, you think of someone who is in a basement hacking into complex security systems. And what he did was pretty simple. He just found the weakest point.
And I gave that click. I opened the door.
He just took everything he wanted.
18 million documents, emails, contracts, spreadsheets.
Cristiano Ronaldo enfrenta a primeira condenação por fraude fiscal.
It's something that opens a window in society that was not supposed to be open.
Nós estávamos perante uma colossal fraude.
What is Doyen? A company in London which is owned by these Kazakh mafiosi.
It was the Wolf of Wall Street invading football.
We were not dealing with Mickey Mouse money, we're dealing with serious money.
Constantly, you're wondering who is the puppet master behind these revelations.
Of course, it raised the alarms. Do we have a rat inside?
They say to me, clean football and clear my name.
Nobody knew who was doing it, and no one knew what was going to come next. It could be them.
I don't like too much media exposure. I preserve a lot my privacy, you know. So I don't know how is your script for this thing, and I don't care in the end, unless, of course, you're going to portray me as the big bandito in the world of football, you know. But okay, let's go.
In 2015, Nélio Lucas was doing great. He was doing businesses with every Portuguese club.
Nélio Lucas es uno de los mayores responsables de la gestión de fondos de inversión en el mundo. Debe estar muy bien cuando vemos la playa al lado, con lo cual tenemos que agradecerle una vez más su presencia.
Nélio Lucas created a company named Doyen Sports Investment. They were presented in the beginning as someone who was there to help clubs.
The biggest assets of the clubs are the football players. And what you do, you provide them an alternative finance for them to acquire those assets.
¿Qué es lo que necesita el fútbol? Una mejor y justa distribución de encaje, de dinero, una competición más justa, oportunidades iguales, profesionalismo.
If a club wanted to buy a player, but they hadn't money for it, instead of going to the bank, they would go to Doyen, which would buy part of that player. And then that same player would be sold by 20 or 30 million euros. And then their margin of profit would be huge. So they had a nice business model.
From all the big clubs to the players itself, to the agencies, we work with everybody. We became probably the most prominent and the most powerful powerhouse in the industry.
In only 4 years, they achieved to invest more than 100 million euros in players and also to manage the interest of very famous people like Javi Hernandez, Neymar, or David Beckham. So it was really a remarkable success in such a short time. He was dining in the most expensive restaurants in London, drive a Bentley, he owned a yacht worth more than 3 million euros. Always on the phone, in a plane.
I was in the distance of a phone call with any president, any manager, any player. If I call a president, and they see my number, they will understand, okay, it's because there is something important. If you see my WhatsApp, I always say that, I'm always available for a good deal, I understood the industry. and I think it was successful.
I remember exactly where I was when it first emerged. I was walking back to my office, got a text from a Brazilian lawyer, and he said, "Have you seen Football Leaks?" So I had no idea what he was talking about. I said, "No," and he sent me this link. And it was to this website. It was called Football Leaks. And it had some player contracts on it. I mean, there was very confidential information posted there. My immediate reaction was, oh God, because I was writing a book about the player trading market, and it was so hard to get player contracts. And someone's just put a website on and is giving it away.
We thought of it like some kind of WikiLeaks, a website where someone was posting confidential documents that they somehow had obtained. We weren't used to read those kind of documents. This had details, this had little clauses, and they seemed legitimate. In their website, they had a statement saying they want to bring some light into the darkness of the football world.
They were sick of how dirty the football industry was, and they owed it to football supporters to show the true face of football.
I tried to email the guys from the website, but they never answered my emails. John appeared when he decided to speak for the first time to the New York Times, and he presented himself as John and as a representative of a group of people who were behind Football Leaks.
When you read that John had given an interview to New York Times, how did that feel?
It sucked.
Initially, people didn't get the dimensions or the scale of this. And then it kind of exploded into life. It was very important to Real Madrid that they kept their biggest star happy, and it wasn't Gareth Bale, it's Cristiano Ronaldo at the time, who was bought years earlier for a world record fee. So publicly, they stated a fee in the 90 millions for Gareth Bale.
Jonathan, it is a world record deal, is that right?
I don't really want to get involved in that. I think that's not for us to comment on. But it's not a bad deal.
towards 90 million. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
I'm not going to comment on the amounts, but whatever it is, he's worth every penny.
What the football leaks showed, this contract that says Gareth Bale cost 101 million euros, which I think is quite funny, because you cannot upset Cristiano Ronaldo.
When these leaks were published, I was absolutely shocked and disgusted. I just think it's so wrong. It's just nobody else's business. It's a private thing.
It kind of blows you away even now to think about when you have some of the biggest figures in football, whether it is Neymar or Gareth Bale, and the biggest transactions just being pushed out like that on a random website. It created a lot of fear because A, nobody knew who was doing it, and B, no one knew what was going to come next. It could be them.
If you talk about sports in Portugal, you talk about football.
As pessoas ficam coladas ao ecrã e há mesmo muitas pessoas que metem o futebol mesmo à frente da família e do trabalho e vive-se muito intensamente o futebol em Portugal.
You have a huge passion regarding mostly three main clubs, which is Benfica, which is Porto and Sporting.
Eu nasci com futebol. A minha primeira recordação que eu me lembro também foi essa recordação do Porto. E eu fiz isto a minha vida, tanto a jogar como aqui na claque. Sempre gostei daquilo, da magia da claque, dos fumos, das bandeiras, dos cânticos, aquelas coisas. Diariamente, e fiz disto a minha vida. Estou cá até hoje.
Benfica is the biggest club in Portugal, which has the biggest amount of fans. And then you had Porto. They represent anti-capital or an anti-power force from the north.
O nosso Benfica é o nosso maior rival. Para mim, Benfica representa a corrupção, o Estado, nos termos tipo Israel e Palestina, tipo Ucrânia e a Rússia.
Eu lembro-me muito bem, obviamente, do dia em que recebi o primeiro contacto. Estava a almoçar aqui perto e recebi um e-mail estranho a dizer: aqui ficam os 2 últimos briefings enviados aos comentadores lampiões. E respondo ao mail a dizer como é que eu posso averiguar da veracidade deste e-mail. E passados uns minutos recebo um novo e-mail. Eram print screens de caixas de e-mail do Benfica. E eu respondi, sim, a verdade tem mais. E foi assim que me foram enviados cerca de 20 gigas de informação. uma troca de e-mails entre um antigo árbitro, com uma pessoa com muita influência nos meandros da arbitragem, no base-fond da arbitragem, e um funcionário da administração do Benfica, em que eles assumiam que quem controlava a arbitragem era o Benfica. São os mails em que o Benfica tem os dados todos dos árbitros, as moradas, os telefones e dados sobre a vida privada, sobre as amantes dos árbitros, sobre as namoradas dos árbitros, quem é que andava com quem, que já tinha sido minha ex-namorada, que já foi namorada deste árbitro do filho daquele, etc, etc, etc. Uma coisa absolutamente vergonhosa. Mas isso é de uma especial gravidade porque condiciona mesmo muito o trabalho dos árbitros, eles saberem que há pessoas que podem chantagear com esse tipo de informação. Isso foi absolutamente chocante. Estávamos perante uma colossal fraude. Eu senti que tínhamos ali um material explosivo. Colocou-se logo a questão, vou já entregar isto à polícia ou vou primeiro torná-lo público?
Eram árbitros que estavam ao serviço do Benfica. É o que ele está aqui a dizer. Claramente. Não temos que ter ilusões sobre isto. Isto é um esquema de corrupção de árbitros a favor do Benfica.
Durante mais ou menos meio ano, todas as terças-feiras, nós divulgávamos novos mails, novas vigarices do Benfica na televisão. O Benfica, na altura, queria que eu fosse preso em direto no programa, quando eu fazia as divulgações. Isto são números que eu bloqueei, porque foram números que adeptos do Benfica, imagino eu, que me ligaram a ameaçar-me de morte, a dizer que me batiam, que faziam isto, que faziam aquilo. Onde eu vivia com a minha família e tive que mudar de casa por causa disso. E eu pensei, quem é que será que manda isto? Quem é que eu pensei logo? Trata-se de um hacker muito bom, foi o que eu pensei. Eu nunca soube quem era a pessoa do outro lado. Claro que eu fiz perguntas, mas a pessoa nunca quis responder. Era uma pessoa muito crítica dos comportamentos do mundo do futebol.
This Doyen group were clearly the biggest investors in third-party ownership, and they came out of nowhere. We wanted to know more about them. I managed to get 20 minutes with this guy, Nelio, who I was really looking forward to talking to. He was the front man for this business. This slick agent, sharp-suited, shiny shoes, good teeth. And I asked him at the time, I said, well, who are your investors? He said, they're very rich people. I said, can you tell me? He said, no, they're private, that they're so rich, this is just like a plaything for them. It was very hard to get any information.
Someone called me to point me to this website. It came out of nowhere. It was strange.
Once Football Leaks happened, one of the stories I remember was it had the schematic organization chart and the company structure. There was like holding companies in Malta and a split of assets with this Nelio Lucas. For me, it was like, God, we've been looking for this for years.
Of course, it raised the alarms. What's happening? Where is this coming from? Who's doing it? Do we have a rat inside? Is this my shadow? Is this my right hand? It's my lawyer. It's my IT guy. Who is this? I went to my lawyers and we pressed charge against whatever it is behind this. And we did it in Portugal because the website was in Portuguese. The day they fill it to the authorities, it was the day that I received the first email from the person behind the football leagues.
At a certain point in time, the people behind Football League stopped publishing documents on the website, and they gave the exclusive to Der Spiegel magazine.
We got a call from Der Spiegel who told us, look, we've contacted one of the guys who is behind the Football League's website, and he accepted to give us a lot of data. There was more than 18 million documents, everything from emails, contracts, pictures, video, spreadsheets. Nobody knew how many documents there were behind it, and nobody knew which documents would be published next. So that created quite a sense of fear in the football world.
These stories showed the structures built in order for these guys to be paid. And they suggested there was an element of potential tax evasion linked to some of the world's biggest players.
Coaches, players, and agents, they used fiscal planning in an extreme way with the clear goal of paying less taxes.
There was Lionel Messi's tax affairs, Jose Mourinho at the time, Cristiano Ronaldo was involved. It attracted the attention of tax authorities across Europe.
Cristiano Ronaldo veio pessoalmente ao Tribunal de Madrid declarar-se culpado no processo em que é acusado pelo fisco espanhol de fraude fiscal.
Eu estive em Madrid para assistir a este julgamento, mas foi um dia muito intenso, com muita informação, mas de facto com muita confusão, porque de facto estava ali o melhor do mundo, estava ali Cristiano Ronaldo em tribunal, sem saber bem o que é que poderia acontecer.
Cristiano Ronaldo enfrenta a primeira condenação por fraude fiscal. Vai desembolsar quase 19 milhões de euros, mas livra-se de ter no cadastro criminal uma condenação a pena de prisão.
I can imagine the fear that gripped world football as these leaks were coming out one by one, like who's going to be next? Because this did have consequences.
I was in my house in London, and it was very early in the morning, and I received the email from this person called Artem Lubazov.
Would you mind reading out the emails?
The first email, the leak is much bigger than you can imagine. The entire operation of Doyen Group is known. The loans coming from the investors, the business model of Doyen in Brazil, in Turkey, in Central Asia, all involved, blah, 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 blah. All this and much more can appear online. Surely you shouldn't want that, right? But we can talk. So this was serious, of course it was serious. You don't want a guy to be inside of your house, revolving your things in your bedroom, taking out your underwear and opening your safe or trying to understand the code for your safe and access to it. So you continue. I have no interest in harming you or your collaborators. I have nothing against you, even respect for the way you rose to the top of the football world. Then my reply, I don't know who you are, but tell me what you want. Because my idea was trying to understand exactly who's behind this. And his immediate reply was very short as well, a generous donation. And you can be sure that all the information I have will be deleted right away. Then I asked him, what do you mean by generous donation? Somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million, I think will be a good donation for this material. Actually, I was surprised that the value was not much. I thought it will be much more. Because you start thinking, what information this guy has? What is he going to publish? I thought, okay, we are dealing with a guy that is, I don't know, in Russia or in China or in North Korea. But to make this even more bizarre, he said to us, we can resolve this easily and in the greatest possible secrecy between preferably lawyers. I thought that this was a joke. How can lawyers be involved in extortion or in this kind of operation that was being discussed?
Artem Lobozov presented his own lawyer, and a meeting was arranged at a gas station on a highway on the outskirts of Lisbon.
The term super agent has been made up by the press, and I'm not quite sure what it means. If you ask me personally, I'm a super person, so.
The role of agents in football is a controversial one. They are the oil of the transfer industry, and that has grown to $7 billion.
As far as I can tell, you're the most successful agent in the world?
I haven't counted other people's money. But I think number-wise and business-wise, I think we are the most successful in the world.
There are a handful of these people who are at the center of world football. They will start with Pini Zahavi, Mino Raiola, Jorge Mendes, and Jonathan Barnett. They determine the fates of where some of the best talent ends up.
Gareth Bale. He's one I'm best known for being associated with because we broke the world record. Just propelled us to the very top.
For the agents who have spent decades earning huge amounts of money, there was no great transparency about how they earned it and exactly how much. That suited them just fine. What Football Leaks did was show this huge commission they could make, and also how they made it, the mechanisms inside the contracts. And some of it was quite ugly. One of the most significant stories in Football Leaks was the story of Paul Pogba's transfer back to Manchester United from Juventus. And the amount of money that went to the agent of Paul Pogba, it showed that he was paid tens of millions of euros for his role in this, just to be the man who could get this thing done. That just seems absolutely insane.
Mino made quite a lot of money. Does that make it greedy? I don't think so. Makes them probably, in my mind, quite clever. Every fan in the world wants their team to have the best players. They should be thankful to the agent for getting him there. I think it's people being jealous. That's something else.
Would you go as far as to say that you don't care about what fans think of you?
About me? I don't give a damn.
So Nelly Lucas, he was communicating with this Artem Lobozov for several weeks.
And he sent me actually a contact of a lawyer which was ready to come sit with us. Very bizarre, man, very bizarre. The police told me, listen, find a public place that you're comfortable with, and I'm sure someone will be there to protect in case something goes wrong. I set the place, which was in a gas station in Oeiras. I wanted to go in a place where there was other people, you know. I didn't know if the lawyer was coming. Is he coming alone? Is he coming with someone else? Imagine you go there to a place, you arrive and there is a truck to sit and push you there inside and that's it. Of course, it's scary.
The judiciary police was on the outside of the gas station, and they had two police officers inside on a table nearby so that they could listen to the conversation and they could act if necessary.
The emotions, you can imagine, it was quite powerful because you don't know what to expect. Fortunately, it was just a meeting between us and this lawyer. It started like normal people, you know, hello, good afternoon, how are you? My name is this, my name is that, blah, blah, blah. So they were trying to propose a way to basically transform this thing into a document.
They were trying to find a way that it wasn't blackmail.
And then I interrupted and I said, look, actually, I would like to speak because first thing I don't understand is how you guys gonna transform extortion into a contract. This sounds to me very bizarre.
The goal of Nelly Lucas was to make Aníbal Pinto speak so they could get more leads in order to discover who was really behind the attack.
During my conversation with him, I was trying to portray the fact that if this guy is really talented, instead of paying him from the silence, I would like him to work for me. This was the way that I created that to try to push more from him. And he actually worked. Aníbal Pinto gave me some idea about this qualification. First of all, he said, this guy, it's a young guy, but he's very talented in computers, and he's never get caught, because I helped him, for example, in a case with a bank in Cayman that he took money, and in the end, he was, I managed to save him, you know.
That was interesting for the police investigators. They started to see a lot of coincidences with the case that happened 2 years before. They were wondering, I wonder if it's the same person behind this.
John, in 2018, got in touch with me by a cryptid mean. He was looking for a lawyer because it was quite scary to be arrested. So I've been a lawyer for 40 years, dedicated to the defense of main whistleblowers. I'm still the lawyer of Edward Snowden, Antoine Deltour, who is at the origin of LuxLeaks, and Hervé Falciani, SwissLeaks. So of course I was interested by football leaks. I flew to Budapest in August 2018 just to explore how I could help him. And we had a drink, a dinner, and we spoke extensively about his case. It was important to obtain his confidence. And he said to me, as a map road, as a clear frontier, I want you clean football and clear my name. Clean football and clear my name.
Football Leagues presented Doyen as an evil organization.
They start exhibiting contracts between us and the clubs. And they really portray us very bad, very unfairly bad.
The only goal of Doyen Sports was to make money. It was the Wolf of Wall Street invading football.
They were very strict and they were very detailed contracts.
If there was an offer which was above a certain amount for a player, the club was forced to sell it.
If the player is sold by this amount, Doyen will get 10%, 50% of the money that they had invested. We haven't seen any contract like this before.
Towards the end of 2018, there were revelations that really shook the game.
To have you on the program, I mean, thousands and thousands of documents and data to sift through.
It was the whole panorama of football exposed in different ways.
How is this all likely to rock the global game, do you think?
Manchester City, this team that is owned by the brother of the ruler of Abu Dhabi, had allegedly inflated its revenues in a way that what the revelations showed was an illegal way.
Massive breaking news. UEFA has decided that Manchester City are to be hit and hit hard for breaking financial rules.
Also around that time, this story that is still having disastrous effects for the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, appeared. This is about these meetings between the FIFA president and the then prosecutor general of Switzerland. And that investigation into Infantino and those meetings remains ongoing. Another very significant one was a story about some of Europe's biggest clubs hatching a plot to create a breakaway Super League.
It would affect every single fan in Europe, and it would really fundamentally rock the football business.
This Super League project did materialize, albeit in such a poor fashion that it collapsed in 48 hours, but it's the closest football has come to a seismic breakaway of its kind. There was a general revulsion from a lot of the public. You know, you had a sense there was a decay in football. But these leak after leak confirmed it, that the game had kind of lost its bearings, become unmoored from what football was, which was these football teams in their local community, giving a few hours of distraction to people. Instead, it is this often vulgar business where power and money are colliding and a few actors are able to take what they can from the people's game. Constantly, you're wondering, you know, who is the puppet master behind these revelations?
In that point in time, The football atmosphere in Portugal was completely toxic.
É esquema de corrupção de árbitros a favor do Benfica.
We were trying to find more about who was the man behind the Benfica Leaks case. And you were calling people, calling sources. We started to hear some rumors, but no one was telling his name. But in early September 2018, a case that involved Benfica got to its end. And when it ended, a source told us, go there and have a look into the appendices of the process. Okay, why? Because the guy you're looking, his name is there. And we were, wow, okay, let's have a look. In the morning, I went to the court. I had asked for permission to see the files about the investigation. There was a folder which had the case about Benfica. I was looking until I got to a page. There was a written note by the public attorney, and it described part of the investigation and part of the meeting at the gas station in the highway. This investigation originated in a complaint presented by Doyen Sports Investments against Unknown. The complaints from Nelio Lucas and against Artem Lubazov. There's an identified suspect. And there it was, Rui Pinto. That's how I found about the name of Rui Pinto. It was in public documents.
Do you have the magazine with you, the issue?
Yes.
Can we see it?
Sure. You haven't seen it before? The headline says the hacker who stole the Benfica secrets. And then it has a small text saying that he's an IT genius and he created football leaks with the information from Doyen, Real Madrid, Porto and Sporting. And he's being investigated in Portugal and in Spain. We found that he was a young guy from Porto and that he was living abroad and that he was like a self-made man in terms of IT knowledge.
É o tema que está hoje na capa da revista Sábado. O homem suspeito de roubar segredos do Benfica é pirata informático português.
When we published that story, it was all over the news for weeks and weeks, all over the news.
Rui Pinto está ligado à criação do Football Leaks.
Em 2015 entrou no mundo do futebol ao desviar milhares de documentos de empresas e de clubes.
Durante meses, o pai e a irmã de Rui Pinto foram alvo de escutas telefónicas, mas há um dia que é interceptada uma mensagem no telefone do pai de Rui Pinto com a confirmação da compra de bilhetes para Budapeste, na Hungria. O pai e, na altura, a madrasta de Rui Pinto são seguidos desde o aeroporto até à casa do hacker em Budapeste. Rui Pinto é depois surpreendido em casa de manhã cedo pela polícia húngara que cumpriu o mandado de detenção que estava em nome de Rui Pinto, emitido pelas autoridades portuguesas.
The arrest of the mastermind of football leaks was, you know, a global headline because of the years of crazy stories.
Hi, this is Rui Pinto. I am John, the whistleblower from Football Leaks.
Yeah. John, Rui Pinto, Artem, it is all the same person. There he was with his hair, you know, and this is the guy behind Football Leaks. Your face dropped.
Quite funny in a way that, you know, this, small kid has unleashed what he had. This kind of spiky-haired university student, you know, with a backpack and, you know, cherubic, childlike face. It just did not fit the mold of a man who's brought so much chaos into the world of football.
That's the fascinating part of it, because when you think of an hacker, you think of someone who is in a basement and doing very complicated stuff, hacking into complex security systems. And what he did was pretty simple. He just did some phishing. He just sent emails to people, and people are dumb. People don't know how to use computers.
I received an email, apparently from who was the sports director of FC Porto at that time, which wanted to share a file of information of players.
Someone sends him an email with an attachment or a link that seems credible, people will click.
I considered it legit. I press to open that file.
In a very logical and very simple way, he just found the weakest point on an IT system.
Basically, when I gave that click, I opened the door.
He just went there and they just took everything he wants until he was caught. When he was arrested, the Portuguese authorities issued an European arrest warrant for him to be extradited to Portugal.
We knew that he will be put in a plane soon.
In March 2019, he was extradited to Portugal. He was questioned by a judge and he was sent to pre-trial detention.
And then it was a new chapter of this saga, this soap opera. He was sent to jail.
William Bourdon, whom I knew already from other cases in which I had worked with him, he came to see me in my office in the European Parliament and told me, look, I've been called to defend a young guy who has been arrested in Hungary and is supposed to be the source of football leaks. He's going to jail and he will be tried in Portugal. And I said that Portugal did nothing about the money laundering and tax evasion activities that we could see thanks to football leaks. And now it's going to focus on the guy who has exposed the illicit activity. And so William asked, I will need a good lawyer in Portugal to help me with this case. So I put William in touch with Francisco Teixeira da Mota.
William Bourdon talked with me, and we came to the conclusion that it would be good to work together. When he was in jail, we went there weekly, once or twice a week. He was not happy what we saw in the football, these third-party ownerships that were, for him, destroying football. It's something that he thought it was wrong and that was hidden from society, and decided to make it public.
In Portugal, there was a lot of excitement, everybody calling him the hacker and so on, being portrayed in a very negative way. And I was asking all the time, how come the Portuguese authorities take a complaint from Doyen and then go after Rui Pinto?
The second award goes to a person who is now in custody in Portugal.
About that time, one of the political groups of the European Parliament was giving an award to whistleblowers.
He's the architect of the Football Leaks whistleblowing case.
I went there because among the awardees was Rui Pinto.
Some powerful people would prefer to keep the truth about corruption in the football world in the shadows. And this is unacceptable. All supporters who are more committed to the values of sports than to money should support Rui Pinto.
Since Rui Pinto wasn't able to be there, they asked me if I would be able to deliver this to Rui Pinto. So I decided to ask permission from the authorities to see him in jail. I think he was pleased, and he felt this was indeed a recognition that part of the society really appreciated what he had done. The first time that we met, I was surprised. He looked much younger than he was, with a funny kind of hair shape. He was very serious and very persuaded of the importance of what he had done.
I had to participate in something bigger, that I had to try to make a difference. Fortunately, I had the chance to gather a quantity of documents related to football. Well, the next steps were to try to expose what was wrong.
I was impressed with the kid. I was genuinely impressed. Public opinion, little by little, changed.
So I remember what happened in some stadiums. Free Pinto, Free Pinto. People shouting, Free Pinto. Because there's a community of players who understand what did Pinto makes him a friend of football.
Rui Pinto estava em prisão preventiva e sucederam-se muitas manifestações a pedir a libertação do jovem.
Vi no Facebook que ia haver uma manifestação de apoio ao Rui Pinto. Contactei a organização e disse: eu vou levar 200, 300 Super Dragões para lá.
Decidimos também aderir, porque não só como cidadão, mas como portista.
Porque uma pessoa que fez o bem estar a ser penalizada Eu acho que o Rui Pinto devia ser, entre aspas, condecorado como o herói nacional ao fazer esta descoberta e ao ter exposto para toda a gente.
He was more than a hero in prison. He was angry and outraged that indeed the authorities had followed the complaints of the crooks and going after the whistleblower instead of going after the crooks.
What matters for me and for Football Leaks is the documents are authentic. I don't care about the origin. I'm a whistleblower, so I have to expose. That's the only thing that matters to me.
Once I learned that Doyen was the main accuser of Rui Pinto, I did my own investigation about Doyen. What do I find out? That it is this company who doesn't even have an headquarters in Portugal, that is based in Malta, already quite suspicious. That has this Portuguese guy, Nélio Lucas, as a frontman.
Malta is in the European Union, and it's not forbidden, not is a crime to use a tax efficiency jurisdiction for you to optimize the results of your business. If I can pay 5 instead of 10, why should I pay 10? For some reason, these things exist. I didn't create them. What did they have against us? Nothing. Nothing. They could claim, okay, these guys were making a lot of money. Okay. We were not dealing with Mickey Mouse money, we're dealing with serious money. So what they try to understand, okay, who's the guys behind? Where is this money coming from? I was a witness in this court case, you know, of Rui Pinto. The day that I was going to court to testify, the judge asked me, explain me how did your partners make money? What a stupid question. And I said, look, first of all, I don't know how they make money. I don't need to know.
Who is behind Nélio Lucas is a very interesting question. In the Football Leaks document, they write Nélio Lucas must be the only face of Doyen. Nobody must know who is behind it. And who is behind it is a family of Kazakh-Turkish oligarchs called the Arifs. When the Berlin Wall and the USSR collapsed, they made their fortunes in mineral resources. They built a huge and sacred empire. A maze of offshore companies in all the worst tax havens of the planet. There are 4 brothers, and out of the 4 brothers, Tevfik Arif is the only public figure. He was based first in Turkey, then he moved to the US, where he began to invest in real estate in association with Donald Trump.
The US Congress has recently established that they are an organization laundering money for the Russian mafias.
They thought that football would be a good investment. And at some point, they decided to create an office in London that they called Doyen Sports. In the beginning of 2010s, Tevfik Arif asks his son, Arif Effendi, to go to London to run Doyen Sports with Nélio Lucas.
Because of the past of the family, their connections, I think in the heads of the people, this leads immediately to something unknown or strange or bizarre, you know, and immediately you see these people with long beard, you know, Kalashnikov. And no, this is actually people with suits, big investments, international deals. From there, you just invest the money the best way possible.
The first thing that got the police on the tail of Rui Pinto was the meeting at the highway between Nélio Lucas and Aníbal Pinto. During that meeting, Aníbal Pinto mentioned that he had represented his client on a previous investigation in which he had hacked into a bank. A couple of years before Football Leaks, someone was able to access the server of the Caledonian Bank, an offshore bank located in the Cayman Islands. In September 18, 2013, Rui Pinto entered the Caledonian Bank servers, went to an account of a client and transferred $46,000 to his own bank account in the Deutsche Bank in Lisbon. That transfer went unnoticed. But then in October, he went back to the Caledonian Bank and transferred $310,000. That specific account was part of a pensions fund, so they immediately noticed that there were $300,000 missing. Initially, Rui Pinto said that, no, I have nothing to do with it, that's my money. Then he recognized that the $310,000 weren't his, and he gave it back. But he said that the $46,000 were his. His lawyer, Aníbal Pinto, went to the lawyers that represented the Caledonian Bank, said to them, okay, let's go to court, and I call all your clients to testify, and the entire world will know that the bank was hacked. And immediately the lawyers from the bank, they said, okay, no, let's find an agreement. Rui Pinto would give back half the money from those $46,000, and that's it. In judicial terms, it's a closed case in Portugal. Rui Pinto's record, it's clean. But the Caledonian Bank tells us something about Rui Pinto's past. It doesn't fit with the story that he's telling about himself as a whistleblower, a Robin Hood of the football industry. The Caledonian Bank tells a story of someone who went to a bank in an offshore territory looking for money. Someone who was trying to enrich himself. It's like his dark side of his own story that doesn't fit with the rest.
It's a contradiction because you see a guy that actually he should have some ability because he did something that you need to have some knowledge to do the things. Simultaneously, it's a guy that is probably not the brightest mind in the world because a guy that takes money from a bank and sends this money to his bank account, it's a little bit, come on. It's a minimum. At least try to pass it somewhere. I don't know.
We discovered that Doyen Sports had absolutely no interest for the careers of the football players they invested in. For them, football players were like objects. For instance, when the Brazilian team is qualified for the semi-finals, for the World Cup of 2014, they write, name a bitch, the nigga is gonna make us money. Another example is the player Radamel Falcao. In 2013, he decides to move to Monaco. They make a very good profit with Falcao's sale, but they wanted more.
They published WhatsApp texts between you and Arif, and I'll just read them out.
Okay.
They have you saying about Falcao, he went to Monaco, that fuck, his career is finished.
This is a message between him and me. If I go to your mobile phone and I start reading message between you and your friends, I'm sure I'm gonna find something there that if that was exposed public, you'll probably not be happy. It's like, I'm in a restaurant, it's a girl here, oh, nice boobs, nice ass. And then you read that out of the context and you see what kind of words this guy selected.
What we can see from the documents is that inside Doyen there is a regular use of prostitutes. Nelio Lucas and Arif Effendi often discuss prostitutes on WhatsApp. In order to be discreet, Arif Effendi calls the prostitute footballers. organize footballers now. Don't fucking waste time. We're gonna end up like last night with nothing.
Definitely me not involved in this. For sure not. 100% not. Run your biggest, deepest investigation.
Got it. Can you tell me about your trip to Miami in August 2013?
In August of 2013, there is a promotional tournament in Miami with some big European teams.
It was any trip like any other. I went there to see the games on the preseason.
His main goal is not to look at the football, is to try to sell one of the players in which he has a stake, a French player called Geoffrey Kondogbia. There is a release clause of 20 million euros in his contract. And so Nelio Lucas is doing everything that he can so that Kondogbia is sold. And we know that because they are discussing the matter on WhatsApp. At some point, Nelio Lucas writes to Arif Effendi. And he says even Florentino Perez, the president of Real Madrid, removed his tie and danced, partied on the dance floor.
We went to a club, we had nice drinks, we had a lot of fun. Nice, something normal between friends. I'm happy he enjoyed.
The most interesting is what happens the day after. The Arif family have a huge penthouse in Fisher Island, which is basically a billionaire's island, just off Miami Beach. Nelio Lucas texts Arif Effendi and he tells him, the messages are quite explicit about the fact that this is a sex party, and that the girls that he wants to bring are prostitutes, and they want to invite Florentino Perez. Arif Effendi's father, which is Tufik Arif, Arif Effendi calls him Skip. And Nelio answers, I will give Skip room to Florentino them, and Arif answers, for 20 million euros for Kondogbia.
I don't recognize this text. I don't know where they got this from, but it was definitely not from me. If I would like to do something like this, I don't need to ask permission to anybody. This is like a movie, it's nice, but if you put a nude scene there of sex, it was much more interesting for the film. At least think and come up with a better story,
Florentino Perez strongly denied having taken part in this party. In another text message, a few days later, Nelio Lucas says to Arif Effendi that Florentino Perez was interested in the player but was ready to pay only 15. And so finally, AS Monaco accepted to pay the 20 million and to buy Kondogbia.
Setembro de 2020 é o primeiro dia de julgamento de Rui Pinto no Campos de Justiça e o aparato é enorme.
It was full house. You had dozens of reporters from around the world waiting outside for the trial to start.
There were police all over the place, and there were rubberneckers and the public trying to understand what this circus was about.
Quando é que Rui Pinto deverá prestar novas declarações?
Não cometo crimes, sou uma pessoa séria, sou um advogado honrado e, portanto, estou aqui para esclarecer.
This was a major event for the country.
Rui Pinto está acusado de 90 crimes, entre os quais a tentativa de extorsão.
He faced years and years of detention.
Rui Pinto represents a world free from corruption and doesn't move himself with the personal greed or with the personal interest. He stands up for a better society.
Não entra pela porta principal, vai pela garagem, veste um colete antibala na sala de tribunal. Assistiu-se a medidas de segurança extremas e nunca vistas em Portugal.
At the same point in time, there was some trial for terrorism in which some people who were accused of being part of the Islamic State, and the security measures were not that close.
People have lost a lot of money as a result of what he's done. People have had their reputations shredded. These people are furious that their innermost secrets of how they run their business were leaked. If you've upset that many people, there is a chance that one or two of them might want to do you harm.
Knowledge is power. So people that have the power try to avoid others to have knowledge. And I think Rui opens a window in society that was not supposed to be open.
Acusado de 90 crimes de acesso indevido, violação de correspondência, acesso ilegítimo, sabotagem informática.
O pirata informático garantia perante o tribunal que não se considerava um hacker, mas sim um denunciante que revelou muita informação ao público, sem a qual não seria possível abrir vários inquéritos, não só em Portugal, como em outros países europeus.
Thank you for hearing me today. My name is Edward Joseph Snowden. The final accounting of any act of whistleblowing is found in its consequences.
Rui Pinto is the Edward Snowden of fight against corruption.
I believe that in the case of Rui Pinto, there is no question that the stories that have been uncovered here have advanced the public interest, and I hope you will agree.
Such exceptional whistleblower as Pinto has to be protected, has to be recognized by the judge as someone who sacrificed himself for public interest.
I think it's offensive to Edward Snowden when you compare Rui Pinto with Edward Snowden. You can't compare them. You just can't.
The whistleblower defense, for me, is slightly worrying. The idea that someone can essentially walk into your house, see if you're not a good person, and then leave.
It doesn't work that way. The ends doesn't justify the means.
Did you ever ask him where he got his information from, or did you not care?
No, I did ask him. It was never clear to me, so I thought I should not insist too much.
Can you explain how Rui Pinto got hold of the material?
I don't worry about it. As a lawyer, I don't need to know that.
The details of his adventure are not a matter of interest for me. I don't give a damn. What does it change?
No primeiro dia que falou em tribunal, Rui Pinto garantiu que não era um hacker, era sim um denunciante e que nunca tinha pedido dinheiro em troco de não revelar informações. Ao fundo, Doyen é um dos principais crimes que leva o pirata à barra dos tribunais.
The important thing that's being under trial is the extortion attempt. It doesn't fit with the story that Rui Pinto is telling about himself.
They tried to portray the things like David against Goliath. These guys of Doyen, these are all banditos, you know, full of cash. And this guy is a guy in the middle of nowhere fighting with them, trying to expose them.
You can't not talk about the extortion case. He's spoken about wanting to rid football of all the murkiness. if this guy appeared at a point to try and profit from his ability to access files he shouldn't. This is a little stain across all of that.
It will be an original sin for the Football Leagues project.
He had never the intention to receive any money. It was just a game. It was just a game.
I decided to play with them. I contacted Nelly Lucas, and I basically said that, yeah, I have some documents about Dojan, and I wanted to see their reaction. I wanted to know how valuable were these documents for them. I wanted to know for how far they were ready to go.
He feigned to have the willingness to receive money, to demonstrate their fear. Because if you accept to pay some money, it's because you are obsessed to maintain a law of silence. If there is something which does not interest Pinto, is money. He doesn't give it up.
It doesn't make any sense to me that they're just trying to see how much money Dojan was available to pay. There are some emails in which Rui Pinto talks with Aníbal Pinto. About setting up an account in Malta. Because he would have fiscal benefits. It's highly ironic. He's fighting fiscal evasion and fiscal people paying less taxes. But he himself was seeing that he would pay less taxes in Malta than in Hungary.
Eu acho que o Rui Pinto fez um excelente trabalho, ajudou para que os portugueses e o mundo percebessem tudo o que se passa no futebol e não só. E conseguiu que tudo isso, toda essa máquina que estava montada fosse desmantelada. Mas quando ele sair, vou convidá-lo para vir ver aqui um jogo para o nosso meio. Irei levá-lo lá para toda a gente o aplaudir e agradecer por tudo o que ele fez.
You may say that thanks to Rui Pinto, some illegal behavior of some of the actors of football industries are no more possible.
You recall everything that was wrote about me. These guys are calling you criminal, like you're acting for these bad organizations in the world. It makes you don't sleep, makes you get nervous, makes you lose business opportunities.
The guy who ran Dojan, I don't want to mention the name, but what he was doing and how he lived his life in the football world is something I think is terrible.
There's been criminal investigations opened in several countries. A real awareness about the dirty tricks of the football world.
How are those stories received?
You want an honest answer? People don't care. Because that's on the news cycle for a couple of days. But on the next weekend, Cristiano scores 2 goals and everything goes away.
The absolute paradox of his story is that when the trial started, in one hand, he appeared as a protected witness. Simultaneously, he is criminalized.
He did a lot of harm to me, to my company, to my family, a lot. I hope he pays for what he did, and I'm sure that justice will make him pay for what he did.
In the beginning, probably there was a financial motivation, but I think that eventually changed, and I think that his goals were really to try to reveal stuff that he thought it was wrong. And those are two versions of him, a hero and a villain.
It puts your mind in a real dilemma. It tells you the world really functions in a grey area. There is nothing that is sort of completely pure, and there's not this other end which is just pure evil. There is this kind of mess in the middle that we all are operating in.